Another dean that I talked to at the school said, go to Strasbourg. It was a summer program. And I said, I don't have any money. My father just died. And I said, I mean, like, no money at all. He said, write and tell them. So I did, International Institute of Human Rights. And they said, that's okay. Come anywhere. And I went. About 50 students, all either in law school or first tour diplomats. And one of them, Leandro Basile, took me under his wing. He was first year or first tour in Paris at the Burkina Faso embassy. He was brilliant. He was so helpful. You're supposed to be fluent, bilingual completely. And of course, most of us said we were and we didn't understand a thing. I'd had 99 years of French and we never speak it. And I got off the plane, got to the school and said, this is just going to kill me. I didn't understand. And half the teachers only spoke in French. So this is great. You're in the class, you have to do an exam and you don't know what they're saying. And Leandro said, no problem. They walked us through, those of us who weren't bilingual, these exams. He went on to become their foreign minister, and about 20 years later, 15, in Washington, I saw his name, pick up the phone. I said, Leandro, is that you? He was their ambassador to the U.S. And I say this with the connect the dots, because sometimes you get places by hazard, or simply because you make the effort to go somewhere difficult, and you never know what you're going to find. 20 years after that, I went back to Strasbourg as I was a lot of things, similar to my friend here who wears many hats here. You're the only American, 5 French staff. I was consul general. I was the deputy observer to the Council of Europe, which is a human rights organization with 47 countries. And I was also the observer, U.S., to the European Court of Human Rights. Again, I thought I'm going to drown here. The people from the International Institute of Human Rights came over to see me, and they brought my application from Strasbourg when I had applied as a law student. Same picture of me. I mean, the support I got from them, and I had not been in touch in all of that time, and they still remembered me. And I say that it can be good and bad. People remember you. And think about it. And I tell my daughter that people remember you for better or for worse. Sometimes they will get you back if it's for worse, but they will also support you because you did something for them or you supported them 20 years ago. When my daughter graduated from Robert Louis, she had taken accounting. We usually don't have accounting in the high schools in the States, and she liked both accounting and English, but she wasn't certain about what she wanted to do. She applied to, and she didn't know U.S. schools very well. She'd only spent 3 years there. She went to elementary school in Senegal and Kenya, and then middle school, 3 years in the States. Anyway, she ended up at Howard University in the business school, and she didn't even know how she ended up there. It was her application, I suppose. But she just took off, and it was the accounting from Robert Louis. When she applied to graduate school in business, her interviewer happened to have a similar background. She was British, but had played netball. My daughter played netball here in Samoa. And the interviewer, who had her own firm, she was one of the few women on Wall Street with her own firm, was curious. And they ended up talking about Samoa. My daughter ended up at Stanford University's MBA program, and I am, to this day, because she applied in the last group, and one question was, why did you apply so late? And my daughter was irritated about that. And I said to her, why did you apply so late? Do you think they were waiting for you to apply? In any case, she ended up at Stanford, and it's the accounting from here. She does it in her head because the kids then, that's what they did. There's not a lot of gadgets, nothing at the time. I think her experience here got her through Stanford because she was grounded. And you walk into Stanford's business school, Nike has built the business school. It looks like the Taj Mahal or something. It's ridiculous. It's not letting that level of wealth bother you. And I tell people, if you sit up all night worrying about a level playing field, you will kill yourself. It's not level. It's never going to be level. And don't worry about it. And I'm not so sure, having gone to school myself, with very wealthy kids at some point, it helps you see that that isn't really the tipping factor. And the winners, it's more the long term, the endurance, the ability to jump over, go around, do something with obstacles. And you can't always buy away the obstacles. And I'm not saying that one is good or bad or better or worse. I'm just saying don't self-select. I see people all the time who don't even apply because they think they aren't going to get it. And you won't get it if you don't apply. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't play the lottery because I never win anything. And probably I never win anything because I never play anything. But that's another issue. But it's that, and it's risk-taking also. And that's probably why I would never make it on Wall Street. I don't like risk. My daughter does, and she says, "Mom, you'll never make it in business. If I lose $10, I'm all distraught." You have to be able to lose and come back. And probably because I never really seriously played sports. And when I did, I played badly. But I like sports a lot. But I didn't learn early on to lose. And it's a really valuable skill because in any profession, game, in the embassy, you know, you win some and you lose a lot. And you may lose more battles than you win, but you learn to do something positive with what you win. But I think when I decided to move into, for what its State Department is more uncharted sort of domain. I was in Washington in the Office of Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Island Affairs, and they needed someone to go to Tonga for the summer because our embassy wasn't staffed. They said, I volunteered along with one of the administrative people to set up what was then the South Pacific Forum. And I took my daughter by my street, about 8 at the time. And people said, are you kidding? I said, it'll be fine. I got there, one of the local staff, my community staff, assigned her daughter to mine to take her around, and their playground was, you know, the waterfalls, and they get $1 for the taxi every day. And I didn't know this. Drive over to a waterfall. My daughter's a fish, luckily. And they would just jump in and out all day. It was great. It was like Disneyland with no admission. And it worked. And it worked well. It gave me the confidence when Apia came open. I said, I'll go for that. People said, if you go there, they'll forget about you. The political side. I'm a political officer. The State Department has these tracks, codes, political, economic, administrative, consular, public affairs, public diplomacy. It's a political officer, and I've been doing Africa, and you usually need to be in a hot spot, you know, if you move up. And I said, well, maybe it's a good thing if they forget about you. And so I came to Apia. This was 99, spent 3 years, and it was terrific. I worked under 2 ambassadors in Wellington. One was Carol Moseley Braun. For those of you who don't know her, she's the first African-American woman senator. And she took the position, it was coming to the end of the administration, so she was only there about 1.5 years. Her impact, and she came over to Samoa, and we would do, I remember one session we did for women only, with 50 Samoan women, many of whom are still my friends, and that's where I was sitting yesterday, in the yard of one of them. It changed my perspective on where you go, why you do what you do, and why you don't always look for the largest, the most populated, the wealthy. And I wasn't like that anyway, but I think I grew a lot during the time I was here. I'm still in touch with her. We're getting ready to do a session. It's called Corporate Council's Women of Color. It's a group. It's 10 years old. It's the 10th anniversary. She's a keynote speaker. 1 year it's on the East Coast, usually New York, D.C., 1 year on the West Coast. The group was formed by a woman who had a Rolodex sitting in New York because she said there were no African-American women general counsels, Fortune 500 companies. So she just started calling her friends. In 10 years, it has gone from about 50 to it's 3,000 members now, many of whom are general counsels. And I'm saying that because it's supported, and I say this because your support doesn't always come from people who look like you. a lot of the support from CEOs of Fortune 500s and the colors across the board in terms of the color spectrum. But they have built this organization just through grit and hard work and connections and showing the value of having this diverse work environment, because in their case it brings you money, and that's what they are about in terms of moving people into these positions that they've never held before. And so when you look at obstacles, this woman who started it, she's still the president, is vice president at CBS. A lot of the support came from CBS. I found that a lot of my support has come from people who don't look like me, because the jobs I was doing, there weren't many anyway, or any in some cases. It doesn't matter. You look for who's supportive and who they don't tend to put impediments in your way. Peace Corps. And this has more to do with some risk-taking and also listening to your inner voice when people say, you want to do what? I went in Peace Corps after law school. Most people think I went in before. No. I got out of law school, I took the bar, California bar, that kept my mother from having a nervous breakdown, but I wanted to travel. And I always wanted to go to Francophone Africa. And so I went to Senegal. Senegal, I was a teacher. I taught English as a foreign language to the equivalent of probably 12 to 15-year-old students. I learned more from my students in Senegal, I think, than they learned from me. Some of them spoke and speak English better than I do, because they are very, very good with languages anyway. But I think the lesson from Peace Corps is the importance of having teachers who value you and who think you can do something, and who don't look at what you can't do or where you can't go. And I have watched some of them as they have moved. One of my Peace Corps teachers teaches English. He's Senegalese. He teaches English in the Japanese Foreign Affairs. This is in Tokyo, because he's that good with languages. I use Peace Corps all the time. My deputy in Fiji at the embassy was a Peace Corps volunteer in Niue. The former deputy was a volunteer in Fiji. When I was a deputy assistant secretary, 3 of the 5 deputy assistant secretaries are former Peace Corps volunteers. It shows organizations, one, that have lasted that long, but it gives you a different perspective. When we decided to go to Papua New Guinea, this was in my job as deputy assistant secretary. This is when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. And we were looking for a country. We were going to Australia, New Zealand. We were going to add on a third. The staff assistant in the office, Foreign Service, had been a Peace Corps volunteer in Papua New Guinea. So what did he do? Every night at 6 o'clock, he would come in and talk to the assistant secretary about Papua New Guinea. And finally, I think the assistant secretary gave up and said, we're going. We added it on. It was a great visit. We did a women's leadership conference as part of the trip. I still run into women from various countries. We invited women from all over the Pacific who remember that. And that's just to say impediment, risk-taking, doing things that people go, are you kidding? That's going to be difficult or problematic. Well, then let's do it, because the easy stuff is the boring stuff anyway. And I think part of leadership is convincing people to take the risk and come along, not just stay to get along. It also has to do with vision. And sometimes the ideas that you think are terrible are really great ideas, and people just aren't ready for them. And that's another thing, timing. Sometimes the time isn't right. And sometimes you have to put it on the back burner and do it at a later time. And careers, family, I think, can be the same way. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Or what you want to do and your family has other ideas, and there are always compromises. But at the same time, as long as I think you keep pushing, forging ahead, sometimes you have to make these lateral moves, but forging ahead, you get there. Let me stop there, though, and hear from you all a bit, because I think, I'm sure, there's some very interesting stories. Everyone has a story.